Alright, so today I'm going to show you how I color graded my best performing interview in DaVinci Resolve. This is not going to be a very complex tutorial, it's going to be very simple. You don't need to be a pro colorist or very advanced in DaVinci Resolve. I'm not a pro colorist myself, but I really do enjoy the process of color grading. If you come from Instagram or any of my social media, you will recognize this interview because it caught a lot of attention and it helped me grow my audience a lot just because of this one interview. So I'm going to show you the process of the color grading, which is something you can apply to your own videos today. On how would I approach this color grading if I just had the tools in DaVinci Resolve. Even if you have the free version, that's fine. You can go ahead and follow the tutorial, but if you have the paid version, it's going to be a huge plus because we're going to use some effects that are just going to make the image look 10 times better. So hopefully you get a lot of value from this video, apply it to your own interviews, and let's get right into this documentary interview color grading. First thing we're going to do is, of course, we're going to open up DaVinci Resolve. If you haven't updated, it's already on DaVinci Resolve Studio 20, which is the latest version. I have a bunch of projects right here. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going just to create a new project and I'm going to name it tutorial for now. So you can change the location and you can put it whatever you want. I just leave it under my user here in my computer. So we're just going to create right here the project. So the first thing you're going to see here is going to be the cut page. We're just going to be using the color page for now. But in order to import our footage, what I do is I just go right here under the, let me show the labels, under the edit tab. And I already have my footage here in my Finder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag. So as you can tell here, I'm going to click don't change so it doesn't change my frame rate and I can choose it. So what you can see here is going to be first, it's going to be some B-roll over here at the beginning and kind of at the end. I have a bunch of videos. It's going to be my B-roll. Let me just shut this down real quick. So I have some B-roll over here and I have the whole interview, which this is the interview I was telling you guys about. If you haven't seen it, I'm very excited for you to see it for the first time. This was a doctor in the university in Boston, and we did an interview about a documentary that I will be linking in the description if you want to see the whole thing. So the first thing you're going to do is once you have all your footage in your timeline, imagine we just edited the whole thing. I'm going to go ahead and click here on the color tab. All right, so we're going to keep this super simple, super easy to follow. I'm just going to do one thing at the beginning that is going to be a little bit more advanced, but I'm going to show you to you anyways because I think it's going to improve the workflow very much so, and you're going to become very efficient when color grading. What we have right here is the clips. So here you can browse all the clips in your timeline. It's going to be labeled by numbers. This is going to be the gallery. We're not going to use it now. Right here, what we're going to do is just export stills or pictures. We can right click and grab a still. So the gallery here, we're just going to ignore it. We're going to click here. The clips, you can see at the bottom, you can turn it on and off. Here you can see all the videos that are in your footage. And this is going to be very important for the following step. Right here is going to be our notes. And I'm going to click here in the circle to the left. So we have our wheels. What's the first step? The first step is we're going to find that hero frame, which in our case is going to be this interview. Luckily, we did the B-roll in the same space as the interview, so all of this, they have the same lighting and the same location. So those are two things I'm going to look for whenever I start color grading a scene, and I'm just going to select the whole clips. So I can do Control A or Command A in Mac, or select the first clip, hold Shift and go to the last clip and click it. This is going to be our most advanced step, but just bear with me. So we're going to get this out of the way, but it's going to get you very ahead of the curve when color grading. I'm not sure if a lot of people use this technique. I know it's very popular among the most professional colorist. I haven't seen it on a lot of tutorials, but I just wanted to show it to you guys. So what we're going to do here is we're going to right click. Remember, same location, same lighting conditions. Okay, we're going to right click and we're going to add in to a new group. So let's name here office. What is going to happen with this footage that is now all in the same group? You're going to see here that there were 2 dots, and now you're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4 dots. So we have the clip, we have the pre-clip, and we have the post-clip. Whatever I do on the pre-clip is going to affect the whole footage. And whatever I do in the post-clip is going to also affect all the footage. But if I go to the clip and I turn the wheels, you see it's only going to affect, you can see here in the clips, that one footage that you modified on the clip, okay? So this is going to be specifically for each clip. So what are things that we're gonna keep here? I'm gonna show you in the next step. Let's find our hero frame, which is a frame that it has the same colors, the same composition, and it represents the whole group. So I'm gonna choose this right here. Well, let me get one that's a little more still. All right, I think this is a good clip. So this is the hero frame. So before we start the grades, we're going to make sure we have the project settings where they need to be. So if you're shooting for, let's ignore all these and let's go to color management. Right here, we're going to click Rec 709. Sorry, DaVinci White Gamut. DaVinci YG/intermediate and then Rec 709-A. And after that, we're going to save. Then we're going to go up here at the top left where it says DaVinci Resolve and then to go to preferences. So in general, we're going to make sure these right here are turned on, which is use 10-bit precision, use Mac display, and automatically tag Rec 709 scene clips as Rec 709-A. This is for Mac users. If you're not using Mac, I would advise here in the project settings to change this to Rec 709 Gamma 2.4. All right. So once we have the project settings set and everything looks good, now we go ahead with the color space transform. First thing we're going to do that the whole group is going to need is going to be the conversion. If you recorded this on log footage, you need to convert your image to Rec 709. So how are we going to do this? First, we're going to go from the left to the right. So the pre-clip. We're going to open effects. If you don't have a node, you can just create a node with Option S or Alt S in Windows. Then right here, we're going to click Color Space Transform, and we're going to switch it over here. Click and drag, sorry. And then from here, you're going to choose your camera, your color space, and your gamma from your camera. For example, I use a Sony FX3, so I'm going to go with Sony S Gamma 3.Cine and Sony S-Log3. From here, we're going to go with DaVinci White Gamut, and here, DaVinci Intermediate. On the tone mapping method, we're going to click None. And we have our first color space transform in all our clips. So all our clips have the same node. Okay. Let's go back to our hero frame. After that, we're going to go to the post clip, which is the far right. This one right here, the timeline, we're never going to touch, just to let you know. So this, just ignore. Let's focus on the first three. So the one to the right is going to be the post clip. You can just click the dot or click here, post clip. We're going to do the same and click and drag the color space transform. And then from here, since we finished with the DaVinci White Gamut, we're going to start with the DaVinci White Gamut, DaVinci Intermediate. So these are the ones where we left off right here. So S-Log3 to DaVinci. And then in the post clip is going to be DaVinci from Rec 709 to Gamma 2.4. Tone mapping method, we're going to choose luminance mapping. And then the gamut mapping method, we're going to choose saturation compression. All right, so we have the pre-clip and the post-clip. which are, like I said in the analogy, like the buns of the burger. I know it's kind of a weird analogy, but it's kind of like the best way to explain it. The buns of the burger, and then we have everything set up, and now we're going to build the look, the general overall look, and then in the middle we're going to go scene by scene, sorry, well, clip by clip, adjusting and modifying as they need to be modified. Let's start with the first frame. So for the first clip, what we're going to do here is we're going to add 3 nodes, serial nodes, which are Option S, Alt S for Windows, and Option S for Mac. So we're going to click it 3 times. The first node, we're going to change the label, and it's going to be the exposure. So for the exposure, how I approached this look was in the HDR. You can do the same in the offset, but I feel like the HDR has a little bit more control. And what I do is just simply looking at the image. I mean, you can go here on the parade, but I like to just look in the image and have an overall feel before I look at the parades. So I'm just going to click here in global, which is going to affect the whole image, lift, gamma, and gain at the same time. So it's not going to have any priority over any. Just bring the whole image a little bit down. So what I'm doing here is I'm kind of looking at the darkest part to just make sure I don't lose any details. I can just go like exaggerate it and then bring it back up. So right here, every time I do an adjustment, I do Command D to kind of like go back and forth and see the change. I'm just going to bring it a little bit up. So at the second node right here, it's going to be the white balance. So for the white balance, the most common way to approach it is just grabbing the slider temperature and then just move it left and right and kind of see where it stands, and then adjust the tint if you need to adjust it. But that's a good way, and although it's the most commonly used, I like to use the offset for the white balance. So looking at the image, the first thing I see is the image is just too orange or red. Okay, that's just me looking at the image right here. But if you go to the parade, if you're not here, you're gonna click this icon where it's kind of like the little graph, and then click here and parade. You're going to see still that the red is way above the green and the blue. If you go right here to the vector scope, let's reset this. You're going to see that the same. The red is going to be way out of the white balance or the middle point right here, and it has less of a blue. What my goal is with the white balance is the blacks need to be black and the white need to be white. Okay, so you can see here that let's say for example, his hair has a slight orange tint, the same as here you can see the jacket that has the same slight red tint. So what I want to do is just level out these 3 colors. First, I'm going to take off red because it's the one that has the most. So from 25, I'm going to do 23. We're going to increase the blue to 26, just 2 stops. Okay. Let's do it a little bit more. Let's still decrease the red. Decrease the green a little bit. Increase the blue. And we're going to add a little bit more of that red. Just with this white balance, you can see that here in the graph, we kind of level out a little bit. The reason why I left the red slightly above the green and the blue is because we have some warm lamp right here. So we don't want to take off the whole orange, the whole warm temperature. We just wanted to bring it down so it kind of like balances the whole image out. The third node is going to be the contrast. The way I did it right here is going to be a little bit different. Like I said, there are plenty of ways to do it. You can do it with the wheels. You can do it with a contrast slider. You can do it with the curve. First thing I do is I unlink the colors from the luminance. So white is going to be the luminance, red, green, and blue. Just click the Y and it's just the exposure. I'm going to bring down the highlights and I'm going to raise them back up. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to raise the shadows and I'm going to bring them again all the way down. Right here, I'm just looking at the image and I'm just kind of seeing where it feels right. You can see we added contrast, but we kept a little bit of those details in the jacket, right here in the shadows, and in these parts right here, right? So if I select all of these and turn it on and off, you can see that we balanced the image, lowered the exposure, and created a bit of contrast. These three right here, those are going to be just our clip nodes. So exposure, white balance, and contrast. I'm gonna click gallery over here, right click, grab a steel, select all the clips, and then apply grade. So it's basically a copy paste. Why did I do this instead of doing it in the post clip, like I said, where it affects the whole image? Because some clips might need a different exposure adjustment, a different white balance, or a little bit more or less contrast. These three elements are the ones that we're going to adjust on a clip level. I'm just going to copy paste so I keep the same nodes with a starting point very near to the hero image. Okay, but still, if we need to make adjustments, we just make them on a clip level, not on the group. You might be asking yourself, okay, so what do we include in the group? So first, let's go to the pre-clip. We're going to create two nodes. So 1, 2, serial nodes. Remember, Option S or Alt S. This is going to be the color space transform. This is going to be the saturation. And this is going to be the highlight and shadows. And in the CST node, the color space transform, we're going to click Shift S. So we create a serial node behind the color space transform. And just if we need, we're going to add here the noise reduction. Right click, I just clean up the node graph so I have a better view. Close the gallery. Let's just zoom in a little bit. So for the noise reduction, if we need noise reduction, I just like to zoom in like a very, very zoomed in view of the whole image. I don't go way too in because of course you're going to see some pixels, but I just see whether how good or bad is the noise in the image. So for example, I see there's a little bit of noise. So I'm going to go right here on the far right, which is the little motion effects logo, the image and the mountains. In the temporal noise reduction, I'm going to click 3. If the noise is not that bad, I can just leave it in faster. If the noise is very bad, I just click here, click on better, and then just increase it until I see it's gone. So I don't usually go above like 7. I'm going to keep it here like at 5.2. So if I click it on and off, you can see it takes off the noise, but just very slightly. So we don't affect the sharpness of the image. So I'm going to press the letter Z just to get the full view. And we move on. In the saturation, what I did here was, let's reset this. Right click, go to composite mode. Sorry, to color space. And then click on HSV. HSV means hue, saturation, and value. Okay, so value is the same as luminance. So hue is the color, saturation is the intensity of the color, and value is how bright or dark is that color. Right here in saturation, we're going to right click again and we're going to get on the channels tab and you're going to see channel 1, channel 2, and channel 3. They're turned on with a check. Each channel is going to be the hue, the saturation, and the value. So What we're gonna do here is turn off the hue, right click again, channels, and turn off the value. So we are just left with saturation. So how are we gonna do the saturation from here? Well, we're gonna use the gain. In the gain, if we increase the saturation, using my wheel here on my micro panel, you're going to see it adds saturation to the image, but it does not look cheap. It looks like very, very deep, rich colors. So I'm going to exaggerate a little bit more right here. So if we compare these and let's do with the slider, let's just exaggerate it. Okay, so this is the slider. And this is with the hue, saturation, and value color space. So you can see the difference. Here it takes like the whole image, it looks like very, very bright. And here it just enriches the colors in the image. Very slight difference, but you can notice very easily. So this is going to be the pre-clip. The whole images here, they're going to have the same noise reduction, saturation. Right? So we're going to keep going right here. For the highlight and shadows. Here is just to take the edge off. Let me just close the clips. I'm going to take the edge of the highlights and I'm just going to increase a little bit of the shadows. It's going to be here on the highlights tabs. I'm going to use my panel again and I'm just going to decrease. Okay, and what I'm doing here, I'm looking at the brightest part of the face. You see here with this very shiny, I'm just taking off that edge. The reason I'm doing this with the highlights tab and not like the gain, for example, is because the gain brings down the whole image. When with the highlights tab, you just bring down kind of like those brightest parts. And after I do that, I go to the shadows and I'm just going to increase the shadows a little bit until I recover some of those details again. Right, so we have a little bit more of a balanced image and we can keep working with this. After we have that pre-clip, this is going to be kind of like the main parts of the look, you know, the noise reduction, the saturation, taking off the edge of the image. So this right here is going to be the pre-clip. There's nothing more to it. And now we're going to move with the best part, which is going to be the post-clip, my favorite part. And here is where we build the look and add all the cool effects. All the nodes that you add here are going to be behind the color space transform, because the color space transform is going to be all the way to the right and the pre-clip all the way to the left. The only node behind the color space transform is going to be the noise reduction. Okay, so have that in mind. Here we're going to do Shift S and then another serial node, another parallel node, Option P or Alt P, and then Option S again. Sorry, from here, Option S. So make sure you're here in the parallel node before you do Option S, okay? This right here is going to be our look. So right here is going to be look. This is going to be look adjustment. And this is going to be the hue, saturation, and luminance. Okay, we're gonna leave this for one moment and then in the look. So how did I approach the look? So I wanted to make sure this had the feel of a documentary. So it's going to be very moody, slight warmer colors, but we want to have that contrast on the skin. So first thing I do is I just go to the lift. So lift gamma gain is going to be the translation of shadow, midtones, and highlights. So gain is going to be the brightest part of the image. Gamma is going to be the in-between of shadow and highlights. And shadow is going to be the darkest part of the image. For the look, what I always do is grab the lift and then build the base. So if I want my image to be a little bit more moody, I go to the blue, cyan, or greener side, which is going to be like straight down in my wheels. So this is the part where if you want to get a little bit more creative, you can just play around with it. Just make sure it's very slight. You can see I barely moved it, and you can see here the value didn't go like too crazy. I just kept it very slight. So if I go before and after, you're going to see we made it more on the cooler side. And if I want to balance the skin tones on the subject, I just go on the opposite side of the adjustment I made on the lift. So if I went, for example, straight down in the lift, right here, I'm going to go straight up in the gamma, just to give you like a very exaggerated example. Before I do this, I make sure I go here on the graph, I click vector scope, click here on the adjustment, and go on check the show skin tone indicator. This line right here is going to be where the skin should be. If you don't see it, you see I have my drop, my qualifier on top of the image, and you see it's showing the value right here in the circle. If you don't see this, what you're gonna do is right here at the far right, you're going to click the three dots and then display qualifier focus. So here, if you display, you check it, you're gonna see wherever you place your qualifier on top, you're gonna see the value here. So remember, skin tones in the middle. Right now, I'm just gonna grab the gamma and I'm going to move it a little bit more to the orange side. And I'm adding a slight shift to the green. I'm gonna turn it on and off. Let's check the skin where it's falling. Okay, you don't have to be very specific. Sometimes with the shadows on the highlights, if you move it around, it's going to be like shifting here in the value. I just grab kind of like in that in between and see where it is. So right here, it's in the middle. After I do this, I go to the look adjustment. I'm going to click right here on the hue versus hue. And I'm going to click the red, yellow, and blue. So you see whenever I click here, you see these dots where they form. So the red is going to be this dot, the yellow is going to be right here, and the blue is going to be this one. You can see here the red, it has a peak, or the orange, and it's going to be the orange part of the image. And the blue has a peak, which is going to be, for example, the jacket, the books, and the rest. What I do here is I grab the dot nearest to the peak, I move it on top of it, and then I kind of like go up and down to see if I can just make, for example, the yellows look a little bit more orange. So I think right here is a good look. You see, it has a very slight, I don't know if you can tell, very slight green tint. And if I turn it on, it's a bit more orange right here. Let's do the same with the blue. So take a look at the jacket. I'm going to exaggerate it right here. I'm going to move it up a little bit to add that a little bit of green tint. So make it a cyan. So blue and green make cyan. And you can see we shifted the colors to be more in balance. This is the famous teal and orange look. So orange on the skin and the teal right here in the jacket. In the hue, saturation, and luminance, what we're going to do here is just go straight to hue versus saturation. So here we can manage the saturation in the whole image. Do the same with the yellow, the red, the blue. So let's grab the yellow and see what we can do here. I'm going to lower a little bit the saturation in the yellow part. I'm going to do the same with the blue, see what it does. So this right here is going to be our look. Okay, I'm going to put this on one side. After the parallel node right here, we're going to do the same. So one node, another serial, two parallel nodes, and another serial node. This second group right here is going to be our texture. So texture is what gave life to this image and made it pop. Okay, what are we going to do here? So from this part of the tutorial, this is only for the paid version because some of the effects, I don't know all of them, but some of the effects are specific to the paid version. If you have the paid version, you can follow along. If not, just kind of like watch the rest of the tutorial to see whenever you get the paid version, more or less the feel of what we're going to hear. And maybe you have some effects, and I'm not sure if you do, but maybe you have them and you just have to like explore them and see. So here's going to be the first effect, which is the beauty filter. So the beauty filter, we're going to go to effects. We're going to type beauty right here, click and drag. We're going to open the advanced options, click on automatic, and then we're going to add the amount. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit on the face. You're going to see I'm exaggerating a little bit here, so I can see where it's taking me at, and then I'm going to pull it back. So around 100, it's making the face a little bit smoother. Let's do a little bit more, 120. And we're going to lower the scale to around 350. Okay, it's very slight. You're going to see all of these effects are going to be very, very slight. But at the end, I'm going to turn on and off the whole group, and you're going to see the huge difference it makes. Here's going to be the glow effect. We're going to effects, and we're going to click glow. Click and drag. This might look a little bit different if you have the 19 version, but it's going to be basically the same. What we're going to do here is go to advanced controls, composite type. We're going to go to soft light. You're going to see the whole image turn a little bit darker. And then on shine threshold, you're going to pull it all the way back. In the spread, I leave it around 1.4. It's kind of like a sweet spot, but you can play with it. I just go to right here, 1.4. The saturation, bring it all the way down so it doesn't affect the color grade that I did already. And at the end, we're going to blend the effect. So right here, pull it back to around 540. So that's the glow effect. Right here, it's going to be the contrast pop. Here in the effects, we're going to type again contrast pop, click and drag, and this is going to add a little bit extra pop to the subject and all of the details around in the background. So you're going to see right here, I'm going to exaggerate it a little bit first. Okay, so you see it adds contrast to the image, but here on the adjustment sliders, we're going to make sure we select exactly in what part of the image we want it to be affected by the effect. So here I don't go over 70 or 80, depending on how strong I want the effect. I just kind of like look on the image and get an overall feel. So kind of like 65 looks good to me. Detail size, I'm going to lower it to 140. Low threshold, we're going to lower it at the same. High threshold all the way up, kind of like to 950. And the softness, we're going to increase it to around 650. And same here, we're going to blend the effect to around 650. Third effect is going to be our last one, which is the texture pop right here. Make sure we have the label. Texture pop. Let's close here the clip so we can get a better look. So open the effects and we're going to see what it does right here. So here it's going to add or take off sharpness to those edges of the image. So if I pull it all the way down, you're going to see it looks very muddy. And if I go up, it's going to look like very sharp. So we're going to go to the right to around 150, see where it goes, and then pull it a little bit back. Kind of like exaggerate it a little bit right here, and then add a little bit of strength to around 250. Okay, and then you're going to see it's very exaggerated, and that's why we're going to blend the effect to around 400 or 350 between those two. Finally, we're going to add a sharpen to the image just to top it off. So we're going to click here where it's the triangle and the kind of like a teardrop. Click here in the triangle, which is the sharpen, and then on the radius, I never go below 47. When you go down, it sharpens, and when you go up, it blurs the image. So 47 to me is very sharp. So I kind of like to keep it between 48 or 49, kind of like a good value over there. And that's it. This is going to be our texture group. So check this out. If I zoom in a little bit, you see the image, all the effects, I'm going to turn it off and see how it affected the picture. So this is off and this is on. So we're going to see how we added a little bit more life to the image, a little bit more sharpness. It was very subtle, but it made a huge change. You probably didn't notice while doing these parts of the process, but look at the difference it makes. It's very underrated. I'm not sure if it's a very harsh effect for some, but for me, for this specific interview, I wanted to get a little bit more in the details and see, for example, the books in the back, maybe some specific details in the face, and kind of like bring them up. If you want it to be a little bit more moody, I would go to the pre-clip here in the saturation and lower the gain. And you're going to see if I lower the gain, we lose all the saturation, but we go here to the look and we can add a little bit more color to it. But this time it's going to have a more dramatic look. So whenever you lower the saturation, you unlock a whole new set of colors. The cherry on top for me, this is going to be kind of like optional. I like to do it because, it looks cool. It looks like an anamorphic lens. I go to timeline, output blanking, and then press 2.35. And then you see you're going to get this kind of like anamorphic look, which for me looks pretty cool. You can go to edit and then maybe move it up just to center the image. Move the position right here. And that looks pretty cool. So if you made it all the way to the end, I wanted to show you something very special, kind of like a bonus to make it look 10 times better. So this is kind of like the special ingredient right here. And just because you stay, I wanted to show it to you. So on the clip level, let's go Shift S and create 3 parallel nodes. Let's use power windows. This is a little bit more advanced, so let's take it step by step very easily. Right here in the window, we're going to click and select first a circle. Now that we selected a circle, I want you to look at the image and kind of like guess where is the lighting coming from in the key light. So the light that hits the subject, where is it coming from? You can see here from the eyes that it's coming from the top, kind of a little bit to the left. So it's going in a diagonal direction. So I'm going to click this circle right here, stretch the window, place it on top of the subject, and then here you can rotate it where the direction of the lighting is coming from. So right here. And then with the red dot, I'm going to click and drag, and we're going to stretch or diffuse that window. Now that you're here, what we're going to do is we're going to click right next to the circle, this square with a little dot in the middle, which is the invert. We're going to invert the image. You want to make sure the square is white and the dot is dark. And I'm going to turn this off. You don't have to do this step, but I'm going to turn this off right here so I can get a better look. And then I'm going to lower the gamma, so the midtones. Look how it makes the image pop right here. So I'm going to turn it on and off. So you can see how you focus your attention to the subject. So I'm going to raise it a little bit more. Okay, let me turn back on the window and then adjust it a little bit. So this is going to be the basic one. This I do to most of my image, almost like 90% of my images. The rest are very optional and are very different to each clip. So I'm going to show you here kind of like my thought process whenever I do windows. First thing is, when I see practical lights, I want to boost them if they're not strong enough, just to give kind of like an atmosphere to the location. So I'm going to click another circle right here. I'm going to place it on top of the lamp. I'm going to keep the shape of the lamp and then diffuse it. And I'm going to raise the gain right here. And you can see I'm kind of like giving more power to that practical light, which gives a little bit more of an atmosphere. This part of the image is too dark. I can leave it like that, keep that contrast, but it's too dark. I just had one light here, so I couldn't expose this part, but we can fix it here the best we can. I'm going to choose this last window right here, which is going to be a fade. You can grab the top of the arrow and then pull it just to make it a little bit more diffused. I'm going to pull it right outside the frame. I'm going to stretch the arrow. Let me turn this off one more time so you can see what is happening. And then I'm going to raise the gain right here. So look at this part. I'm going to raise it. And you can see we're bringing back those details in the bookshelf. If you need a little bit more exposure, you can add the gamma, which is the midtones. But we don't want to make it more exposed than the rest of the image, so we keep it like this. A little bit down. And I'm going to select these three and look at the difference. So we fixed the lighting that we lacked because of, limitations during set. We fixed them in post-production. This is not the best way to do it, but it helps a lot whenever you need that extra help. And the last step, just to top it off, and this is going to be the last step of the tutorial, but one of my favorites is going to be after contrast, option S. We're going to click the qualifier right here. Under luminance, we're going to select L soft, click, double click it, and then type 12. Then we're going to click Shift H on your keyboard. And then right here, we're going to click and drag until you see just the highlights in the face. So right here, let's do a little bit more. It doesn't matter if it grabs any other part, so just leave it like that, Shift H again. And here, just to add a little bit more pop to the subject, I'm going to raise my gain right here. But we have just selected the face. So I'm going to zoom in and look at what's happening right here. So I'm going to raise it a little bit, raise it a little bit. And you're probably thinking, oh, it didn't change much, right? But if I turn it on and off, you're going to see it added back pop to the subject. I don't want to make it too exaggerated, so I'm just going to dial it down. So very subtle, but it makes a huge difference right here. And this, my friends, is going to be the end of the tutorial. Hopefully you found a lot of value. It was a fairly long video, but I show you my process the best I could in this color grading. This is just a beautiful image. And we did not forget about the rest of the clips. I'm going to show you in another video, just because of time, how do we match the rest of these scenes to our hero frame. So that's going to be on the next video. Hopefully you have practiced this part of the tutorial, and then we're going to move to a little bit more advanced parts, which is the matching all the videos. Thank you for watching.